Hello, and welcome to Replay Value. Oregairu's genuine scene is the single most important moment in the entire storyline, and I feel confident saying that definitively, even though we're only 2 episodes into Season 3. Or maybe because of that second episode of Season 3. That claim is in large part because of how we see specific concepts and phrases that were vocalized during the genuine scene influence character behavior, and how similar diction gets brought up time and again. Think of Iroha's confession to Hayato in the following episode, specifically how she claimed that Hachiman influenced it, Yukino saying that vague statements do not equal actual communication at the next Christmas meeting, Haruno's sly jabs about what the group believes to be genuine, and the entire finale of Season 2. The ripples created by Hachiman's genuine scene are vast and can come back in some surprising places, like a certain moment with everyone's favorite foil, Hayato, and what I would call his own genuine scene, since it's where Hayato is at his most honest and informs us, the audience, of his desires. There's a lot to tackle here, so let's just jump in with episode 11 of Season 2 to break down some of that all-important subtext and to talk about what makes Hayama Hayato tick. When I said I was planning on doing this episode, I was informed that a lot of material got left out in the adaptation process from light novel to anime. As far as it was relayed to me, nothing I talk about here is inconsistent with the source material, except for things that the adaptation has changed. The cuts were mainly to contextual material, and there is a lot of missing context here, with whole scenes omitted in fact. But at the end of the day, this is an analysis of the anime, not the light novel. I welcome those of you who care foremost about the latter to bring up evidence from the 10th volume in your comments. Just note that it's not my focus here. Our episode kicks off with Hayato's clique talking about the future plan survey, Tobei considering following Ebina into the liberal arts. Those small glances her way are a nice touch to confirm his continued interest. But when it comes to Hayato's turn to share, he dodges both Yumiko and Tobei's question, insisting they consider it for themselves. When the conversation shifts to if Hayato is dating Yukino, everyone's surprised reactions also cause the classroom noise to cease, making Hayato's response entirely devoid of background noise.
誰がそんな無責任なこと言ったんだ?
That level of seriousness is something generally reserved for his interactions with Hachiman, like on the rooftop or by the river, and the lack of sound really empowers the deviation from the usual Hayato and around his friends, and this moment. After the OP plays, we pick back up with the service club and Iroha celebrating Yukino's birthday, where Yukino confirms, also with a threatening aura, that she is not dating Hayato. The anger on both of their parts feels a little bit weird. Why was Hayato bothered by it to react like that? And why is Yukino reacting emotionally at all when normally she'd just brush it off? But we get a glimpse as to why Yukino had that reaction after Yumiko enters the clubroom and interrogates her. Yukino confirms that there's nothing between them. Yumiko doubts her, and Yukino goes off.
私が嘘をつくメリットが一つでもある。そういうの昔から迷惑だったわ。
So that's part of the reason for the anger. Yukino and Hayato have known each other forever. Their families are close, as shown in the last episode, and clearly being close to him brings her into conflict with the girls who like him. When Yumiko asks to hear about their past, Yukino refuses.
何かがあったとして、それをすべて語って、それで何か変わる。
The clock ticking in the background is the perfect inclusion for the sound design to make things slightly tense, and the close-up shots on Yumiko and then Yukino's eye as she drives the knife home on her monotoned point, followed by the wide shot to imply everyone absorbing her statement, is all perfectly contrasted by Yumiko's emotional response and the close-up on the fist. They are almost perfect opposites in personality in this moment, and the visual presentation in combination with the vocal performances here go a long way to showing that. Yumiko confirms that she doesn't really care about the past, explaining that she just wants to stay together with Hayato and that she needs to know what course he'll be taking next year to achieve that. Basically, she wants to understand the people she's close to, and with Hayato acting distant, she's afraid she'll lose her place next to him, and not be able to achieve that understanding. When Hachiman clarifies that Yumiko's desire for that knowledge might make Hayato hate her, she replies that regardless, she wants to know. And maybe Hachiman thinks back to his desire to want to know something, to understand someone else, such that he agrees to help her out. Though I wouldn't exactly call this Yumiko's genuine scene. Hachiman's straightforward questioning of Hayato doesn't exactly go to plan, with the star athlete almost instantly asking if someone put Hachiman up to it, and then stating,
じゃあ、俺からも頼んでいいか? そういう煩わしいの、やめてくれないか?
Where that tone shift surprises Hachiman, though Hayato puts back on his normal expression moments later, saying farewell without answering Hachiman's question. Haruno appears shortly afterwards, telling Yukino to figure it out herself after the younger sister asks if she knows Hayato's plans, and then walking back with Hachiman to tease him as usual. Beyond the larger Yukino-Hachiman element that's very much at play in this interaction, Haruno telling Hachiman to ask what course Yukino will be taking, the elder sister is also really valuable to our discussion of Hayato. Hachiman states that he didn't get a straight answer from Hayato, which prompts Haruno to the following line.
そっか。隼人も期待してたんだね。
何を？
見つけてくれることかな。
If we presume that finding him refers to asking what course he's enrolling in, we can immediately eliminate the majority of Hayato's friend group, including Yumiko, from the certain someone question. That leaves us with very few options, and you can slim those further down to Yukino, because both Haruno and Hayato were hoping for something, and what did Haruno tell Yukino to do in the previous scene? That begs the question of why Hayato's certain someone is Yukino, but if it's not apparent already, it'll become very apparent in the second half of Hayato's genuine scene. But before that, we have to tackle the first half of his genuine scene, where Hachiman gets his answer to what course Hayato will be taking. The foot race is a bizarre set piece that I happen to love for its ridiculousness, but also for its mimicking of the conversation that Hachiman and Hayato have. Hachiman opens their dialogue by suggesting that Hayato is only friends with Yumiko in order to keep other girls at bay, which Hayato ignores by speeding up. You can argue that this is because he doesn't want to think about his status with Yumiko, but I think that he's trying to overcome Hachiman's pestering nature in a literal sense, to move past him so that Hachiman can't question him. Unfortunately for him, Hachiman's question was just to throw Hayato off balance. There was no real inquisitiveness in there. And Hayato can't get rid of him that easily because if Hachiman is one thing, it's persistent. With the first condition set, Hachiman asks what course Hayato is taking, which obviously doesn't work, allowing Hachiman to take the lead in their conversation, instructing Hayato to take the sciences. In this moment, Hachiman has gone further than what he promised Yumiko, and in his mind, he's also trying to help Hayato here. It's no accident that he's taken the lead both physically and dialogically, if only for a brief moment, and is looking back at Hayato.
煩わしいのをやめてくれっつったろ。つまりお前はみんなの望む葉山隼人をやめたいんだ。
And with that statement of Hachiman's impression of Hayato, he stops running, allowing Hachiman to move forward and give him a view of a possible future, where he picks the sciences, and the majority of girls don't, so he can be free from their expectations. His friend group moves in different directions without hurting anyone's feelings, and Hayato is free. Hayato's response?
やっぱり仲良くできなかっただろうな。
To me, this is a direct callback to the conversation they had in episode 2, where Hayato explicitly stated he didn't want his friend group to fall apart, and that they mattered to him more than anything else in that moment. Hachiman not realizing that that's still the case, leading to his line of thinking being off, means that they simply cannot see eye to eye on what Hayato values. And at that moment, both of them are passed by a group of students, neither of them is in first place anymore, which allows Hayato to say,
俺は君が嫌いだ。
This is where the matching of function and form of the foot race is so great. It's all about positioning and winning and losing, and so too is much of what Hayato is about to say. He wants them to be equals, and it takes them both falling behind the pack in order for him to say that he hates Hachiman, because for a brief moment, neither of them are in the lead, they're equals in the race at this moment. Hayato feels inferior to Hachiman and wants them to be equals so that he can accept the areas in which he is inferior. That's the callback to the previous episode, where Hayato says that when he praises Hachiman, he does it for himself. It's the same thing here. If he can build up Hachiman, he can accept losing to him. Hayato then tells Hachiman his answer about the course, before taking off in a sprint, declaring that he'll win the crown for the race because that's who he is. We'll come back to the course declaration in a moment because there's a bit to unpack there, but Hayato stating, "That's who I am," is a great moment full of possibility. He could be firmly rebutting Hachiman's belief that Hayato wants to shed all of the expectations on him. He could be affirming that he has no choice but to answer those expectations. And it could be a mix of both, that there are some expectations he wants to shed, but that the expectations of his classmates is not one of those. This part of him, that desire to bring victory and live up to what his peers think of him, is true to his core. But the first one, I think, is the most compelling. He has accepted all of the expectations placed on him of his own will, and has made them his own desire. When Hayato says, "I don't want to lose to you" before taking off, that's obviously referring to the race on its face, but the subtext there is almost certainly about the areas in which Hayato feels inferior, one of which we can finally address in the second half of the genuine scene. The English pub is the setting for the second half of our moment, and it opens with Hayato apologizing to Yukino for the rumor, where she brushes it off and thanks him for looking out for her. That surprises Hayato, who says she's changed, to which Yukino suggests that it's the circumstances that have changed, more or less directly repeating her statement from earlier about those around her understanding her, looking at Yui and Hachiman one after another. Hayato says that Yukino's not chasing after Haruno anymore, and while he's realized that she's now following Hachiman, our protagonist hasn't put together the dots just yet. Hayato takes this opportunity to clarify that Hachiman was wrong about why Hayato didn't want to tell anyone. He doesn't want his relationships with people to reset, not that they would anyway. To which Hachiman asks, "Why didn't you tell anyone then?"
それしか選びようがなかったものを選んでも、それを自分の選択とは言わないだろう。
I love this line. It's not only really important for understanding the finale with Yukino, but it's also got meaning packed to the brim. On its face, it would seem like he's saying that he wants his friends to make their own decisions, which is true, but he's also saying that he didn't have a choice in the first place. So why was Yukino the person that Hayato wanted to ask him what course he was taking if he never had a choice? You can say it's because he loves her, that certainly tracks with why he feels like he's losing to Hachiman, and the smile here feels intentional to carry that emotion, and I'm inclined to accept that in part, but I think the larger reason is because they're in the same position. Both of these characters have so many expectations foisted upon them, not only by their classmates, but especially by their parents. We're led to that connection because of their shared past and their history. It was one of the first things brought up in this episode. They're longtime family friends whose parents are extremely similar in that they are both high society. Who has a ridiculously complex relationship with expectations in Yukino to the point that if I ever do a video about the season 2 finale, it'll be half the discussion? Her mom. Who has a much more straightforward relationship with parental expectations, but that are still so critical to understanding her character? Haruno. Again, whole can of worms. So it tracks that the person who laid out Hayato's path is his parents, especially since the adults are old friends. It's their expectations that he is forced to accept, and they're the ones with the vision of what Hayato has to be, a la Haruno and the Yukinoshita family. He has to meet his parents' expectations and his classmates' expectations, leaving him with no options at all except for what is expected of him. Perhaps then, Hachiman giving Hayato an alternate path, telling him to take the sciences, even if it was one that he could never actually take, at least gave him the illusion of choice, and that was the reason for the satisfied smile. Or if you interpret Haruno saying that Hayato wants someone to find him, and you take find him to mean the real him, the true Hayato, Hachiman saying in this moment, "I hate you too," is his attempt to say that he understands Hayato's position, to not put expectations on him. But, and despite Hayato's laughter, Hayato says that he won't pick and choose, that he believes that the way laid out before him is the best way to go about things. And as the title card drops,
自己満足だよ.
That combination of title and dialogue is perfect. Hayato lived up to the expectations set out by his life, the liberal arts course, his classmates, winning the race, and his own belief that he's not a good guy, categorizing it all as self-gratification. He will always try to live up to everyone's expectations of him. He won't pick and choose what parts of him are real and which ones are put upon him. They're all him. And while that's something that Hachiman cannot understand, why they cannot be friends, why Hayato ignores Hachiman's given out, it's what he's chosen for himself. And therefore, everything that comes with what is expected for him, his path and his friends, that's where he hopes to find what's genuine. And just like Hachiman said in his genuine scene, it may be self-gratifying, it may be impossible, and the differences between Hachiman and Hayato have grown even more so in their intentions on how to search for what is genuine, but each of us have to find our own way in life. It just so happens that the path Hayato is on, one that was never his choice, but one that he has declared agency of in this moment, is one where he'll always live up to expectations. This video was brought to you by Bakuretsu, an online studio/clothing brand that specializes in anime-inspired streetwear. If you're like me and want to wear comfy clothes that are also pretty fashionable while subtly hinting at your passion for anime, look no further than cool designs like this Monogatari one, or this sleek A Silent Voice-inspired shirt. If you want to support a brand that actually cares about our shared anime community, click the link in the description and head on over. Don't worry, they have international shipping so you can get your threads regardless of where in the world you live. As a bonus, the first 100 people to use the code REPLAY at checkout get $3 off their order. Again, thanks to Bakuretsu for sponsoring this video. In this video, I gave my positive take on Hayato's genuine scene. For the negative interpretation, consider him a prisoner of expectations and someone who can never find his own meaning in life, as opposed to my impression where he asserts his agency over it. I gave my positive read because I genuinely believe that Hayato will have a happy ending along with the majority of the cast, but just wanted to assert that you can certainly view this in a much darker tone. Thanks for watching, hope you're enjoying Season 3, and catch you all with a new video real soon.